How does Russia respond to war from Saudi Arabia? What are the tools that Mr. Putin has to say to Saudi Arabia, no, you will not defeat us?
Well, I think the biggest difference between Saudi Arabia and Russia is that Russia can sustain lower oil prices for longer. They can sustain, say, $30 or slightly lower than $30 oil prices for about 6 to 10 years. Obviously, that will require them to draw down on their sovereign wealth fund, but they can do that. However, the only caveat to that is Putin was embarking on this big expansionary plan to really boost fiscal spending, and he was really going to push up a lot of infrastructure spending. He'll clearly not be able to do that, and that's why I think Saudi Arabia is taking this gamble that suggests that Russia is going to come back to the table to negotiate very quickly if prices go down to these levels, because Putin has been very focused on these spending.
Amrita, what is so important here is the simplicity of Saudi Arabia versus Russia. As you know, there are always leakages within the cartel. Who will side with Russia? And to the point, will the United States side with Russia in this price war?
Well, I think the only way you can side in this price war, quote unquote, is if you've got spare capacity, right? Right now, Saudi Arabia is the only one with substantial spare capacity, about 1.7 million barrels per day. They are threatening to raise production sharply. We've been kind of briefed by them saying that they'll try to raise production to 12. We know they can't do 12, but they'll definitely push up exports to 8 by destocking. UAE and Kuwait can do some, but the rest of the countries are already at max, or they can't produce more because of political sanctions. Russia actually doesn't have that much of spare capacity. They can only lift by about 200,000. U.S. is already pumping. If anything, I'd say U.S. is going to be the collateral damage here. I'm in Houston right now, and the producers here are going to be suffering so much. They were already suffering, and there's no lending, there's no money right now for them, and this is really going to crush them.
But so, Amrita, is the theory here that they're just trying to push out these shale producers out of the markets, and then the OPEC Plus agreement comes back on? I mean, ironically, crude prices are now back at levels that pushed the OPEC Plus agreement to come together in the first place.
Yes, exactly. But I think the difference is, to your point, Russia has been pushing that angle that, because we need to get rid of shale, and this is the time to do it because they're already under pressure. OPEC has never believed that. I have spoken to the ministers themselves of the GCC, and they absolutely don't believe that. They believe shale will be here. Yes, growth will slow substantially, but you cannot kill shale. This is much more and very much about OPEC, or particularly Saudi Arabia versus Russia. Russia refused to cut any barrel. Saudis didn't mind if they cut a little bit, and they were happy to take the bigger share of the cuts, but Russia had to do something. Saudis were very clear that they were not going to do everything by themselves. That's at the heart of this disagreement.